Hi folks, I hope you're well. So, yes, people in church would have the impression by my videos that I pick on the church. I don't. I don't pick on the church in any way, shape or form. I take notice of what God has shown me about the church, and I go to Him about that, and I speak to Him about that, seeking Him as to what that means. And then I do videos about that. So yes, obviously, when you have these situations, then yeah. But as I say, I mean, my first experience of church in this area, not talking about any other area, this particular area in Elgin in Scotland, was the Community Church of God under Manuel. Manuel was a Spanish man whose father had been a pastor and quite a well-known pastor in Spain. And Manuel had always wanted to fit into his daddy's shoes. Yeah, maybe earn respect from his dad, whatever. So therefore, yes, he came over from Spain, trained I think in Germany, then came to Scotland and took over this church and wanted to do everything. So he was the pastor, the teacher, the worship leader. He was in charge of admin. He was in charge of international ministry. He was the overseer of that church and the other churches involved in the organisation above that church in this area. Oh yeah. And he was a father and he was a husband. So yes, yeah. He was heading for a very, very early death. But with him, you could see very early, this is a man who was... This is a Pentecostal church, right? Yet this is a man who doesn't believe in laying hands upon people or praying for people or any of that in any way, shape or form. He's a man who's very shallow in his ways. He's a man who thanks God for helping the hospitals to deal with COVID and cancer. This is a Pentecostal church. Thanking God that God has taken healing away from the church and given it to the hospitals and the doctors. Right? The only thing that matters, the only thing really important about the Pentecostal church is that they do things according to Pentecost, but they don't. Right? They're not a Pentecostal church. I don't think they ever have been a Pentecostal church. They use the name because they think somehow it makes them look better. Whatever. Yeah, that was my first experience. This man who was, he had no love in him for the people in any way, shape or form. He was a terrible minister. He was a terrible teacher, an awful worship leader. As a pastor, he was, I liked his wife. I thought his wife was someone who could and should have been the pastor of that church. She had that nature. He didn't. She did. I don't know what she's doing now. I've no idea. I hope that they are happy in now he's left that church. Certainly, after I left the church, about 8 months after, I saw him and he'd aged about 10 years, 20 years maybe. He looked knackered. So now he's left the church. Hopefully he can recover a bit. So then someone else took over the church. I went to the River Church. Met Jeff Oakes. Met other people in that church. And started to see what that church was like. They told me when I first went there, we're not like that church. Yeah, we won't ban people if we don't like what they're saying. Really? Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. And so, I got to see how they did things. Then I got to see how this new pastor of the Community Church of God, the Pentecostal Church, does things. When Kylie Bevan, saw me in the Sunday morning after the Sunday morning service when I popped in to see the pastor, and she cried to the pastor about it, asking the pastor to ban me from any services that she goes to, and he said yes. So I got to see the Oasis Church and how they do things in this area. So I also met people from the Baptist Church, the Standard Baptist Church in this area. And same thing. Very same thing. People that have no desire for God, no understanding of God or what God is doing, they're just doing church. Again, American pastors. So in the Baptist Church, American pastors. In the River Church, which is another Baptist church, American pastors. In the Community Church of God, Spanish pastor, now American pastor. So Spanish pastor first, then American pastor. In the Oasis Church, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, female Scottish pastor. I think. Not sure. And then I also went to the Nigerian church and saw how they did things, and yeah, got a pretty good understanding of that as well. And so yeah, all in all, God gave me a very good picture of the church and reminded me of churches that I've been to before in different areas of the UK. And yeah, helped me to understand that some of those churches have pastors that come from South Africa, some have pastors that come from different parts of America, different parts of Europe. And in the end, it gives you a pretty good picture of the world as to how the church is. And I know that that is correct. I know that that picture is the correct picture. And so therefore, I can now share this. I can now say, yes, I know. I know that I upset Dave Ellaby because I was talking about the church the way it is and last days and saying, well, look, the reality is, yeah, it'd be lovely. I would love to be able to say the church is going against God. I'd love to be able to say that because it would mean that maybe there's hope. I think God wants a church to be exactly how it is, and God has brought the people into the church, the leaders, who are going to lead the church down the way it is, where we will have a church that is ideally positioned to bow down to the Antichrist. I believe that is exactly what's going on right now. And that is why we have the people we have in the church as in leaders. And not just the pastors, but the leaders in the church, the people that run the churches. While they're taking it into so left wing, while they've taken so much of the world into the church. I did videos about that the other day, about the Times magazine. And how the church reacted to that at that time, and how it's led us where we are. But I say, I don't believe any of it is by accident. Not at all. I think it's all exactly how it has to be in the last days. And in a way, that's great. Because it's God's will, so okay. That's great. But in a way that's bloody horrendous because, yeah, these churches will not get revived. They are exactly how they are supposed to be right now. They won't be revived. because they are exactly how they are supposed to be. Yeah. Well, as I say, that is both. Well, it helps you to understand. But it helps you to understand stuff that you don't really want to understand. Yeah. It helps you to understand stuff that is not pleasant to understand. Quite difficult. Because obviously, yeah, there are some lovely people in churches. But again, I feel pretty much assured that those people of God will be brought out of that. And so therefore, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Videos may seem a bit dark sometimes, talking about things that are dark and difficult, but yeah. Truth sometimes is dark and difficult. And the church giving itself to the devil all those years ago, and still doing things very, very, very much according to the world. And not being able to see it. Reading their Bibles, but not being able to see. There you go. You take care. Bye-bye.